always taught my church to pray at midnight, but on the night I died, I discovered a mystery that terrified me. Not every midnight prayer rises to God. Some rise straight into darkness. My name is Pastor Mandla Khumalo from KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. For over 15 years, I led midnight prayers with confidence, believing every word spoken at that hour carried supernatural power. I prayed boldly, preached boldly, and taught others to do the same. But the night I collapsed, I had no idea I was about to enter a realm that would shatter everything I believed. It was a cold, heavy night, heavy in the atmosphere and heavy in my spirit. I had just finished leading an intense midnight prayer vigil from my living room. My wife had gone to bed earlier, exhausted from caring for the children. I remained behind, pacing the floor and praying with fire, or so I thought. But deep inside, I knew something wasn't right. My heart had become tired, spiritually drained, and silently proud. I was preaching to thousands, but fighting secret battles nobody knew. As the clock struck 12:47 a.m., a sharp pain shot across my chest. My vision blurred, my knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the table, but my strength drained instantly. I'll be fine, I told myself. I wasn't fine. Within seconds, my body hit the floor. When I saw my body on the floor, I didn't feel myself fall. I felt myself float. I stood up quickly, confused, wondering why everything around me looked strangely lighter, quieter, distant. Then I turned and froze. My body was lying on the floor, lifeless, my mouth slightly open, my hands still clenched from prayer, my Bible on the floor beside me. I screamed, "Jesus, what is happening to me?" But no sound came out. That's when I realized my spirit had left my body. A chilling wind swept across the room, yet nothing in the physical moved. Then suddenly a shadow crawled across the wall. Not like a human shadow, but something ancient, hungry, aware of me. I felt a cold grip clamp around my ankle. A voice whispered, "We've been waiting for you." Before I could react, I felt myself being pulled, violently, toward a darkness that opened beneath me like a tearing veil. The room vanished. My breath vanished. All control vanished. Just as the darkness swallowed half my body, a powerful light burst through the void like thunder. A hand, strong, radiant, impossible to look at directly, grabbed my arm with force. A voice, calm yet terrifying in authority, spoke. Not yet. He must see first. The darkness screamed. I heard it as clearly as a living creature. The grip on my ankle broke, and instantly I found myself standing in a realm between worlds. Not earth, not heaven, not hell. A place of judgment and revelation. A place where secrets are exposed. The being beside me, bossy, an angel unlike anything I'd ever imagined, turned toward me slowly. His presence shook the air. He pointed to a massive gate far ahead, shimmering with dark flames. "Pastor Mandla Khumalo, he said, tonight you will learn why many who pray at midnight are wounded instead of strengthened, and why some prayers rise into light while others fall into darkness." My heart pounded. I knew I was no longer a pastor giving answers. I was a soul about to face them. The angel's hand tightened around my arm, and suddenly the realm around us began to shift. Slowly at first, then violently, like a storm tearing through reality. The ground beneath us vanished. The air became thick, metallic, vibrating with ancient echoes. I felt weightless, yet pulled downward by something unseen. We were descending, not falling, descending with intention. The angel said nothing. His face glowed like molten bronze, unreadable, unmovable. But I felt it. We were entering a realm God never designed humans to see. The darkness around us wasn't empty. It was alive. I heard whispers, male, female, and inhuman, interwoven like a choir of shadows. Some cried, some laughed mockingly. Some chanted prayers I recognized, twisted and corrupted. My heart tightened. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice trembling. The angel replied, "This is the border between light and the pit, the place where midnight prayers either rise or collapse." I shivered. Midnight prayers. Collapse? I had preached for years that midnight was always a time of victory. But ahead, I saw something that froze my soul. In the distance stood a massive gate, not made of metal, wood, or stone, but of moving shadows and burning flames intertwined like living serpents. It pulsed, breathed, and throbbed like the heart of a beast. Above the gate, words appeared in glowing crimson, the hour of spiritual exposure. The angel spoke with thunder in his voice. This gate opens at midnight every night on earth. It is the meeting point of two kingdoms, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. A cold wave passed through me. I asked softly, "Why am I being shown this?" The angel's wings unfolded slightly, stirring violent winds. "Because you led my people to war without teaching them the cost of that hour." His words hit me like a rod of fire. The angel pointed below. I looked, and my breath caught. Beneath the gate of midnight stretched a vast plain covered with demonic armies, creatures with fiery eyes, spirits with chains around their necks, beings shaped like men but with no faces, winged shadows hovering like vultures. Some held scrolls, some sharpened weapons, some stood on grotesque altars dripping with dark liquid. These beings weren't chaotic, they were organized, prepared, waiting. The angel explained, each night when humans pray at midnight, these forces rise to confront them. But not every Christian is covered. Not every Christian has authority, and not every Christian is truly God's. My legs trembled. What are on those scrolls? The angel looked at me with piercing light. The names of Christians who enter midnight unprepared, the ones living in sin, the ones praying with filthy hands, the ones whose prayers become harmful to themselves and their families. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. Suddenly one of the demons lifted a scroll, and I saw my name glowing on it. Mandla Khumalo. My heart stopped. I could not speak. I could not breathe. My whole soul shook. I whispered, "Why? Why is my name there?" The angel's reply was like thunder and sorrow combined. "Because even you, Pastor, prayed at midnight while carrying pride, hidden wounds, and unconfessed battles." I fell to my knees. The realm itself trembled. Then the angel lifted me by the arm again and pointed toward the gate. "Look and understand." The gate of midnight burst open with a violent roar. Light and darkness collided like two storms meeting at the center of eternity. And from that collision, I saw prayers rising like flames, prayers falling like ashes, prayers turning into smoke, prayers turning into chains, prayers turning into fire. Dark fire, the angel said. Midnight is not just a time of prayer. It is the hour when the true state of a person's heart is exposed before both kingdoms. I felt stripped naked in the spirit. "Lord, have mercy," I whispered. The angel turned his face toward mine. "You have not yet seen mercy. Now you will see the mystery." And with that, he led me toward the gate, the place where the destinies of prayers were revealed. The angel and I stepped through the gate of midnight, and immediately the atmosphere changed. The air was thick, almost alive, vibrating with spiritual energy. I felt as if I had entered the very bloodstream of the invisible world. The angel raised his hand. "Behold how prayers appear before they are judged." Before us stretched a massive field of swirling lights and shadows. Millions of prayers, voices, words, cries, rose from the earth like streams moving toward heaven. But what I saw next shattered every belief I had as a pastor. The three flames of midnight prayer. The prayers did not rise as sound, they rose as fire. Three types of fire, each revealing the true state of the person praying. 1. The pure fire. The first type blazed like gold and white lightning. It rose straight upward, cutting through darkness like a sword. These pure flames came from people with repentant hearts, people living in holiness, people who had forgiven those who hurt them, people who prayed not for show, but from brokenness and sincerity. Demons fled from these flames instantly. They screamed and scattered as the fire burned through their ranks. The angel said, "These are the prayers of the humble. These are the prayers that carry authority." 2. The weak fire. The second type flickered weakly like a candle in a storm. It rose a little, then staggered. It rose again, then dimmed. It kept shaking, unsure of itself. These came from Christians who prayed without focus, prayed while distracted, prayed without faith, prayed because others prayed, prayed with hearts full of fear, not trust. Demons did not fear these flames. They simply blew on them, and many went out completely. I felt deep sorrow seeing this. The angel said, These are the prayers of double minds. They rise and fall because the heart of the one who prays is unstable. 3. The dark fire. Then I saw the third kind, and I stepped back in horror. This fire was black, thick, heavy, burning like tar. Instead of rising up, it twisted downward, dripping like poison into the realm of darkness. Demons ran toward these flames, not away from them. They absorbed them, drank them, fed on them like food. The angel's voice thundered, These are the prayers of the unclean. These are the prayers that harm the one who prays. I watched in terror as the dark fire came from Christians who prayed with hidden sin, prayed while living in fornication, prayed with bitterness, prayed while gossiping, daily prayed with pride and competition, prayed to appear spiritual, not to know God, prayed at midnight while holding grudges. Each dark flame strengthened demonic forces, empowering them to attack the very person praying. My mouth trembled as I asked, Lord, how can a prayer become dark fire? The angel sighed, a sound like wind passing through mountains. Because prayer is not magic. Prayer is the expression of a heart. If the heart is dark, the prayer becomes dark. I swallowed hard. When I saw my own prayer, then I saw something that broke me completely. A flame rose from earth, weak at first, then flickering with dark streaks inside it. It was my prayer, my midnight prayer from the night I collapsed. The angel pointed to it. This is why you had to be shown the truth, Pastor Mandla. I felt exposed, ashamed, terrified. How is it possible? I whispered. The angel replied, Your voice was loud, but your heart was wounded. Your words were powerful, but your spirit was bleeding with pride and exhaustion. Your prayer rose mixed with impurity, and what is mixed becomes dangerous. I bowed my head in shame. When dark fire falls back. Suddenly the dark flames began returning, falling back toward the earth like burning meteors. They fell into homes of believers, some into families, some into children, some into marriages, some into finances, some into the minds of those who prayed. Every dark flame caused a ripple of spiritual damage. I gasped. Why don't believers know this? I cried. The angel turned to me, eyes blazing, because they have been taught to pray with their lips, but not with their lives. What I saw next terrified me. Even more, the angel said, Now you will see why some who pray at midnight face attacks, nightmares, sleeplessness, and spiritual backlash. You will see the mystery of backfiring prayer. He stretched out his hand, and another realm opened before us. The light around me dimmed again, and I felt myself being pulled into another realm, darker, heavier, and far more painful than anything I had seen yet. It wasn't hell, but it was not heaven either. It was a place of unfinished prayers, a realm where heaven stored the cries people never completed, the petitions they abandoned midway, the spiritual battles they walked away from. As I entered, the air felt thick, so heavy I could barely breathe. The chamber stretched endlessly, filled with thousands of floating bubbles, each glowing faintly. Some shined brightly like stars, while others flickered weakly. A few were almost completely dark. Jesus walked beside me, his face somber. My daughter, he said softly, this place holds the prayers of my people. Not the ones they prayed, but the ones they started and abandoned. The ones their hearts felt, but their mouths never finished. The battles they allowed the enemy to interrupt. I looked around in shock. The bubbles closest to me trembled, gently, like hearts that were still beating. What are these? I whispered. Jesus stretched his hand toward a dim bubble. Inside it appeared a vision of a young woman kneeling to pray, but her phone kept vibrating. She picked it up, scrolled for a few seconds, and promised herself she would continue praying later. The bubble flickered once, then dimmed into near darkness. She had a breakthrough on the way, Jesus said quietly, but distraction stole it. This prayer was never completed. My heart sank. Then we reached a section that burned with a strange, sorrowful light. These bubbles pulsed like wounded hearts. What about these ones? I asked. These, Jesus said, belong to those who prayed only when they were afraid, but abandoned me the moment their fear passed. Their prayers were never born from love, only panic. One bubble caught my eye. It flickered violently, as though it was trying to stay alive. I stepped closer and froze. Inside was me. I saw myself kneeling years ago, weeping for God to use me. I had prayed, Lord, send me wherever you want. But then I saw my own fear rise, the fear of being rejected, misunderstood, laughed at. I remembered how I had quickly ended the prayer and whispered, maybe not now, Lord. The bubble cracked slightly. Jesus turned to me. You asked for my fire, he said, but fear made you run before the prayer was completed. Heaven recorded it, but it never reached its full power. Tears poured down my face. I'm sorry, Lord, I didn't know. He touched my shoulder gently. That is why you are seeing this, Ruth. Many believers begin prayers they are not willing to finish. Their angels wait, but nothing comes. Destiny pauses because they paused. He then pointed to the brightest bubbles in the chamber, shining like suns. These, he said, are the prayers prayed with faith, consistency, and surrender. These change nations. These move mountains. These are stored not for decoration, but for fulfillment. I watched in awe as one bright bubble ascended like a rising star, shooting upward into the heavens. That, Jesus said, is a mother praying for her children every midnight. Not once, not twice, but faithfully. Her prayers are unstoppable. Suddenly a trembling filled the chamber, like distant thunder. Jesus looked at me intensely. My daughter, heaven is full of prayers waiting for completion. Tell my people, finish the prayers they start. Destiny is unlocked not by beginning, but by finishing. The chamber began to fade as another realm approached, and my heart trembled because I sensed that what I would see next would shake me even more deeply. As the chamber dissolved, I felt myself being carried into a vast open valley. The ground was cracked like a land that once held water, but had long been abandoned. A cold wind swept across the plain, carrying faint whispers, like people calling out from far away, but with no strength left. Jesus walked ahead of me, and as he stepped into the valley, the ground beneath his feet glowed faintly with life. I followed closely, my heart beating faster. What is this place, Lord? I asked. He paused, his eyes filled with deep sadness. This, he said slowly, is the valley of forgotten promises. The promises my people made to me in moments of desperation, gratitude, or encounter, but never fulfilled. I felt a shiver crawl through my bones. Suddenly, pillars of translucent glass began to rise from the ground, hundreds of them. Inside each pillar hovered scenes of people making vows. A man crying at an altar, promising to forgive his father. A mother saying she would serve God if her child survived an illness. A woman vowing to stop a sinful relationship. A young man promising to preach if God delivered him from addiction. But then each scene shifted, and I saw them breaking those promises. The man refused to forgive. The mother returned to her old ways. The woman returned to the relationship. The young man went back into addiction. The pillars cracked, releasing a dull echo through the valley. Lord, why keep their promises here? I asked, trembling. Jesus turned to me and said, every promise made to God is recorded in heaven. Not because I need it, but because promises shape destiny. When my people break them lightly, their hearts grow dull and the enemy gains ground. He led me to a pillar that was completely shattered, lying in pieces on the ground. This one, he whispered, belonged to a pastor who promised to remain humble if I lifted his ministry. But when fame came, pride entered. He forgot his vow, and his lampstand was removed. My chest tightened with fear. Then Jesus stopped and looked at a tall pillar that was dim, but still standing. My heart sank when I saw my own face inside it. Inside the vision, I saw myself years ago during a prayer retreat. Tears running down my cheeks, hands lifted high, promising Jesus, Lord, if you heal my mother, I will devote my life fully to your service. Jesus healed her, but the vision shifted, and I saw how I allowed fear, work, pressure, and excuses to bury that vow. I fell to my knees in shame. Lord, forgive me. I meant it. I truly meant it. Jesus knelt beside me, not in weakness, but in deep compassion. I know, Ruth, many promises are forgotten, not out of rebellion, but out of distraction. But every unfulfilled promise leaves a door open for the enemy to accuse. He placed his hand on my heart, and warmth filled me. I'm showing you this, he said, so you can warn my people. Promise lightly or promise sincerely, but do not make vows you never intend to keep. Lightning flashed across the valley, and the pillars vibrated violently. Listen, Jesus said with urgency, the time is short. Tell my people, fulfill what they promised me. I remember every vow, even when they forget. Suddenly the valley trembled as if it were collapsing. A bright light engulfed us, and I felt myself being transported to the next and final place. A place Jesus said would reveal why many believers think their spiritual lives are failing even though they pray. My heart pounded. When the brilliant light of the valley of forgotten promises faded, I found myself in a place that made my spirit tremble. A vast hall, infinite in size, filled with shadows and echoes of voices. The air was thick, heavy, and electric, vibrating with power and tension. Jesus walked ahead, his gaze fixed on the hall. Pastor Mandla, he said, this is where you will understand why some midnight prayers fail, and why some prayers, meant for blessing, bring harm instead. Before me stretched thousands of souls, each kneeling in prayer. I recognized some as Christians I had known on earth. Others I did not recognize. They all prayed fervently at midnight, but what I saw shocked me. Flames of their prayers rose above them, twisting into strange shapes. Some prayers turned into black smoke, curling like serpents and descending back into the prayers' own bodies. Some prayers split into two, one part rising, one part falling into shadows. Others formed chains, binding the very people who had prayed. I whispered, Lord, what is happening? Jesus' voice echoed like thunder, yet full of sorrow. Prayers without surrender, without repentance, and without obedience are like arrows fired backward. They rise, but they return to wound the sender. Many pray at midnight, but their hearts carry sins they refuse to release. These prayers carry poison to themselves and even their families. Jesus guided me closer to a group kneeling together. I saw clearly a father prayed for protection while secretly holding bitterness against his brother. The flame of his prayer became black chains that wrapped around his children. A young woman prayed for favor while gossiping and slandering her co-workers daily. Her prayer rose, then fell into a shadow that hovered above her home. A pastor prayed for revival, but pride and hypocrisy flowed from his heart. His prayer rose partially, then collapsed into a pit of darkness. Jesus said, do you see, Mandla? Many pray at midnight, believing the hour alone gives power. But without humility, obedience, and a pure heart, the prayer becomes fuel for the enemy. The angel who had guided me earlier appeared beside Jesus. Together they showed me the difference between prayers that were guarded and prayers that were exposed. Covered prayers, surrounded by angelic light, rising like gold fire to heaven, fully protected and effective. Exposed prayers, surrounded by shadows, twisting and returning like venom, leaving the prayer and their household spiritually vulnerable. I realized that midnight is the hour of spiritual battle, and those who are not spiritually rooted, living in sin or holding grudges, are entering war without armor. Jesus turned to me, his eyes full of urgency. Pastor Mandla, tell my people, the hour of midnight is holy, but dangerous for those unprepared. Pray not for show, pray not for ritual. Pray for transformation, for obedience, for a heart fully surrendered. Otherwise, your prayers may bless others, but curse you and your home. I felt my knees shake. The hall around me began to tremble, shadows swirling faster. It was as if the hall itself was alive, responding to the prayers rising and falling within it. I fell on my face. Lord, show me how to warn them. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. You will return and speak boldly. My people must know. Midnight is powerful, but only in hearts fully yielded. A surge of warmth filled me as the hall began to fade. Light enveloped me again, preparing me to return to my body. The light from the hall of backfiring prayers intensified, surrounding me like a cocoon of fire and wind. My spirit felt drawn upward, then violently pulled back toward my body. I opened my eyes to a blur of white light and the sterile smell of a hospital room. My chest heaved, machines beeped rhythmically. My wife was screaming, her voice filled with panic and relief. Doctors hovered over me, trying to stabilize a body that had been clinically dead for minutes. I blinked and looked at my hands. They were trembling. The Bible I had been clutching in my prayer vigil lay on the floor beside me. Everything seemed so ordinary, but inside I was not the same. I remembered the gate of midnight, the unclean fire, the hall of backfiring prayers. I remembered the valley of forgotten promises. And I knew with absolute certainty I had seen the unseen spiritual battles of midnight prayer. Tears rolled down my face as I whispered a prayer from the depths of my soul. Lord, let me warn your people. Let me teach them what I have seen. The hospital walls, the doctors, the machines, they were all real. But the visions, the truth of midnight prayer, burned in my spirit. I had returned to life with a mission, a burden, and a warning heavier than anything I had ever preached. Once fully conscious, I gathered myself and began speaking to my wife, my team, and anyone who would listen. I shared what I had seen. Midnight prayer is powerful, I said, my voice shaking, but only in hearts fully surrendered to God. Those who pray while living in sin, pride, or unforgiveness are spiritually exposed. Their prayers may rise, but some return as chains that harm their families. Some prayers become fuel for the enemy rather than fire for God. I warned about the hidden dangers that most Christians do not understand. Secret sins that twist prayers into spiritual weapons against the prayer. Unforgiveness and bitterness that block breakthrough. Broken promises to God that leave doors open for attacks. Pride and hypocrisy that render powerful prayers ineffective. I shared how midnight is not merely an hour to pray. It is a spiritual battlefield. Only those rooted in obedience, repentance, humility, and love can enter safely and release prayers that ascend as pure fire. I concluded with urgency, Church, do not pray for ritual or for show. Do not pray while hiding sin or bitterness in your heart. Midnight is holy, but it is dangerous for the unprepared. Surrender fully, repent deeply, live faithfully. Only then will your prayers rise to God and bless your life, your family, and your generation. As I finished, I felt the weight of heaven lift from me. I had returned not just with life, but with a message, a warning, and a revelation too powerful to ignore. From that night onward, I have never prayed at midnight the same way again. And I have never allowed anyone to approach midnight prayer without understanding the spiritual cost and the purity required.